but we want to talk about GAA at the weekend.
Yeah.
Two big takeaways from the Tyrone Galway game. McShane could be out for as much as 5 months, it's being reported. I think John Fogarty's reporting that this morning, and it looked very bad, so you wouldn't be surprised if it was, unfortunately, an injury as bad as that, which is devastation for Tyrone, devastation for him, given everything that's happened this year. Notwithstanding that, Galway, pretty good.
Yeah.
Oof.
Yeah, pretty good. I mean, it's sliding doors kind of stuff for McShane. You know, you feel very sorry for him. I don't know if you saw the incident, but he basically just came out. He won a ball in the second half, but he landed pretty heavily kind of on his left foot, and you can just see straight away, like he grimaces, he rolls over, and actually if you look at it, the foot is pretty much at kind of like 45-degree angle. So I'd say Joyce actually funnily shakes Mickey Hart's hand after the game, and obviously says it to him, you know, and Hart tells him, and you can see Joyce grimacing. So I'd say he's broken his ankle or something like that. But it's bad. He was actually having an okay game. Young Kelly for Galway was having a brilliant game against him. You know, for a lad who's only been out of minor a couple of years, he was a minor captain, if you remember. He was really aggressive on him, playing really, really well. And to be tasked with marking the main man is a big fill-up for Galway. Galway are good. Like, I mean, I got a bit of slating last week for saying I think they've issues at 6, and I still think they do. Tyrone should have had 2 goals in the first half. They should have. McShane had one where he blasted it over the bar when all you had to do was take an extra step and bury it. And I think it was Hart who had the next chance towards the end of the first half. They are unbelievable going forward, Galway. Unbelievable. And they all go. 5, 6, 7 go like rockets as soon as they get the ball under their defence. Johnny Heaney goes. Like, I mean, so they have men who are no problem. They just go and they just support play. They come at angles. And then actually at the end of moves, you'll find nearly cornerbacks coming on in the end of moves. Like Heaney got a goal, I think I remember last week or a couple of weeks ago. Same kind of thing where he comes at angles, slips the ball, gets the ball off the forwards who are advancing back out towards the play. But where they can get caught, and I think where they will need to look at is if there's a quick break and they go in behind them very fast, a lot of them are running back towards their goal.
As in counter-attack?
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, counter-attack. So if you can, Tyrone did it a couple of times, you know, where they put up their rear guard, they set up their defensive wall, and they kind of enticed them in, but they didn't really have... They didn't have enough going forward. Tyrone looked a bit light yesterday, so they didn't have enough to kind of quickly break and get in behind them. But they did it a few times, and when they went down the middle, they found some joy. And even in the second half, when they were bet out the gate, they still had a couple of goal chances in the second half. Numbering
up involves pushing the goalkeeper up and pushing everybody up a little bit, just and having your water carrier be on the field going, sorry. I mean, there's the dark arts that you can add into a team without saying that they need to replace the centre back. It's about everybody else filling into that gap, isn't that?
Correct. I'm not saying the 6. What you're saying is you're trying to, because you get the half back line moving forward in support so quickly, that there is a void. So what happened yesterday was the full-back a lot actually stepped up. So he was actually the last man. Kelly was marking McShane, and he was a kind of a free man in. So anyone who came towards him, he engaged them. But what was happening was he's being pulled out then, and if you have anyone running left and right of him, you can just slip the ball past him. And the rest of the half-back line and midfielders are chasing back at that stage. There's no one coming to meet you.
Yeah.
It's high risk. It is high risk. And, you know, in Tuam yesterday, heavy pitch, like it was a heavy pitch.
It's never not a heavy pitch in Tuam.
I know, that's true. That is true. In the middle of the summer, it's never. Yeah, it is. And like, I mean, it's amazing. And you still see the likes of Walsh just gliding around, you know, like, I mean, it's ridiculous, you know. They're very, very conditioned, Galway. They have massive pace in the team all over the place. Guys who you would have thought were playing okay football the last number of years are playing really good football. Like Conroy comes in, then they have a strong bench and they have an experienced bench. Like Flynn comes in, Conroy comes in, Brannigan played well yesterday, and they've more to come back. So yeah, they're motoring well. Well, all I'm just saying is, I think, you know, if you're James Horan, or if you're Cunningham and you're analysing, or if you're anyone else who thinks that you're saying to yourself, okay, this is an area where I think we can get them. If they're coming, it's kind of like Monaghan a little bit. It's charge of the light brigade, it's abandon, it's get ahead of not only the ball, but you're getting ahead of the kind of blanket. So you're getting to a point where if the man can get out, he can then hit you with a pass and you're free. You know, you're away out into open green spaces and you can just go all the way, rather than coming behind and taking the ball and running back into that wall.
So if you are Horan or Cunningham or the Dubs who think you might come up against Galway in meaningful competition in Croker, is it quick kickouts? Is it quick long kickouts to somebody who's waiting as soon as there's a score or there's a...
Yeah, it can be. It's probably the other end that I'd look at it, which is, and you saw it with Dublin Monaghan in the second half, which is a really, really hard press by your forwards on the Monaghan defence. Because if you can turn over, it's kind of like it's similar to a basketball thing in the sense of, so a lot of teams would try to trap a guy, and we spoke about this last year. So the forwards are trying to trap the defender in an area where they're using the sideline, okay, so that he can't go over the sideline, so he has to come back in, and if you can get him, you can put massive pressure on him. But also the real one is as he throws the hand pass out, it's massive pressure on the second ball. So it's whoever receives that or try to
slows everything down.
Yeah, keep pushing them back, and if they have to go back, fine, go back to the goalkeeper, go back across. But if this guy gets the ball out, as you have 2 or 3 people coming at him, if he manages to get it out and up the field, now you're deficient. You have to be, because you've pressed so many people up. And that's where they could slightly get, because it is a situation where they've come so forward, the 5, 6, 7 are up, you've maybe 4 up, you've a lot of guys in that forward unit, and they're not necessarily turning and just running back, they're staying up there. So even if you looked at the pitch, now it's hard on TV, but there was 1 or 2 shots where you look at it and they've only 1 or 2 defenders. They've everyone pressed up. And even when they got the extra man, they said, well, we're not putting them back in here. We just pressed everyone.
That's pretty exciting, right?
Oh, it's great. It's great. It is fantastic. And it's Pádraig Joyce, you know, like, I mean, he's a forward-thinking type of individual. He's meshing, obviously, what Walsh did, which was get the defence sound. Like maybe he's thinking to himself, right, for the league we can go full throttle on this, and we really need to develop this aspect of going at different angles, having different scorers, not only relying on Walsh and Comer, okay? Let them do their thing, but let's not over-rely on them. And then he say, well, and now we can go back to, because they should know their defensive duties after the last number of years. That should be natural to them now.
This is like a second system they have now that they can fall back on.
It's a good mix. I'm just saying, you know, I'm trying to say, like, if that was me, or if you were Horan or if you were anyone else, you're saying, well, that's potentially where we can pick the lock. Now, if he tightens that up, you're going, okay, where are we going to try to pick it now? Yeah. Because he's got good defenders. They're fast, they're fit, they're physical, and they've brought that bit of edge to it that Walsh obviously had. They're motoring really, really well. Like, I mean, I think they'll be in the league final. I can't see how they won't be, and more than likely against
They still have to play a Dublin regulation football, obviously, so
yeah,
that's obviously one thing that it's almost like a 4-pointer at the top of the table if somebody else can slide on in to get to the league final. It's interesting that you make the comparison with Monaghan there, actually, and you've kind of already touched on the point I was going to get to here, which is Monaghan's issue being over-reliance on one forward, and perhaps there could be a view out there that Galway might become reliant on 2 forwards and Comer and Walsh, but I think that's actually just a profile thing. I genuinely think with the likes of Robert Finnerty and Finian O'Lee in particular over the last season or two, obviously Finnerty's only coming in this year really, that they do actually have a selection of forwards, and if you took those forwards, put them into that Monaghan team in 2017, they would have, or in 2018, they would have made the All-Ireland final and given Dublin a good run. Absolutely.
So, you know, you look again through the Monaghan setup, but just to go back and Galway quickly, what amazed me yesterday even about Walsh is that he is now attracting so many players to him. You know, he's freeing up. So Comer yesterday was the recipient of passes from Walsh where he only had to beat his man. That's all he had to do. And when you're facing him, who's so physically strong, he is like a bull, he's so physically strong, he has a turn of pace about him, he's great balance left and right. So you think to yourself, okay, Walsh has got in behind, let's try to double up or even triple up. Next thing he gets a pass out of Comer, and Comer has to beat only one man. So he's freeing him up, he's allowing other guys just to be able to have one-on-one situations. When you flip that onto Monaghan, I still don't think they have enough yet forward. Like McCarthy, I think was decent yesterday for them. He plays 11. He got taken off against Dublin. he played pretty well yesterday. He took his goal really, really well against Mayo. I don't know if you saw it, but he slipped inside. He looked like he was going to be fouled. He spun out of a tackle, showed great upper body strength, and finished it really well. Actually, there was a man inside him who he could have slipped it to, but he finished it really well. He took ownership out of 11. It's a tricky thing, and he is taking a bit of pressure off McManus. But McManus hasn't been setting the world alight, and maybe that's happy enough. McEnany will be happy enough with that. You know, you'd rather him not be setting the world alight and let other lads set the world alight for you. And Monaghan they still have a great half-back line and full-back line who are able to come forward. And again, that's what they're doing. I think to be fair to the coaches of the Monaghan guys, and Banty's probably the first to say, listen, I gather these coaches together, and he puts his bit of magic dust at the top, but these guys basically run the sessions and decide how they're going to play. They have most definitely identified we can't be over-reliant on McManus, so therefore we need a back six who are well able to attack and well able to support and well able to take their scores.
Are Mayo in trouble?
I don't think they're in trouble. I thought they were well in that game. You know, until the second goal, I thought they were well in that game. You know, they were coming hard. They were playing quite well. I felt they're getting most of their bigger players back. Some of the other guys were doing, some of the younger guys were doing quite well. I don't think they're massively in trouble. I wouldn't be panicking if I was Horan. I wouldn't be panicking at all yet. I think they're improving week on week. I think the win against Meath was a steal, you know, and it's something that'll probably keep them where they are. If they had lost that game, you know, lost yesterday, yes, certainly pressure would have been, I think, coming on. But I don't think he'll panic. I think he's got, I'm not sure who they have left to play. They have Galway, definitely.
And they've carried this
Tyrone. Yeah.
Not the easiest fixture list.
No, it could come down to the Tyrone game, the last game. Can
we come back to this in a minute? Because I did want to get your take on the impact that McShane's absence is going to have. If you know, best case scenario, it's a couple of months. Worst case scenario, he probably misses the vast majority of the season.
Yeah.
We talked when he was potentially heading to Australia about the damage that would have from Tyrone's perspective. It took them from not being considered contenders back into being contenders just by his arrival, because he's a Jenga piece that everybody else thrives on. This is a disaster for their season, really.
Disaster, absolute disaster. You know, I watched them yesterday closely, and Galway did what a lot of teams are doing now, is they just put anyone who was close, as soon as they lost the ball, anyone who was close to Petey Hart just grabbed Petey Hart. Just grabbed them. And it was alas, you know, everyone's going on about John Small and Michael Murphy, but you know, so if I got close to him, whether I was a corner forward or corner back, I just got him and I stopped him, which you can do. You know, I can hit you in the chest, I can stop you from running. Now there was a bit of grappling, and you can see it off the camera a couple of times. Actually, when McShane got injured, you can see it. But so they've taken him out of the equation, right? So if I'm Mickey Hart, I'm thinking, how do I get him back into the equation? I certainly can't have him in a situation where he's doing what he's doing, which is trying to play box to box, because fellas are just tagging him. I'd nearly play him corner forward. I'd bring him out of the whole show, and I'd give him something else to think about, because he's that good of a footballer and that influential that you can't have this type of thing happening to him. Petey Hart, yeah. Because they're really struggling after that year. Like, they're really struggling. Like, Matty Donnelly's gone. You know, so Darren McCurry is going well, but he's not a guy I don't think you can build your forward line around. He will chip in with scores. He's playing really well. But other guys have kind of come in and just gone back out. You know, there's no one really and McShane was such a pivotal point for them. Like, you could fire them in long, you could fire them in high, you could put them in low to him. He was physical, he was able to dish it off, he was able to win his own ball, and with the advanced mark, there was a lot riding on him. And I think it's a serious blow to them. I think they're in bother. Kavanagh doesn't look.
Are they gone as contenders without McShane? You can't, like, I don't even know if they were contenders, but there's no chance of them being contenders really if McShane's not playing.
I saw a kind of a level of frustration yesterday with them that I haven't seen in a while, where there was a bit of giving out to each other. There was a bit of, you know, and when that starts to creep, I'd say they know themselves that the pressure is starting to come on. It's not a nice situation when you bring back your talisman, who you think, you know what, don't worry about it, he'll lead the line now for us, and bang, he's gone for 5 months. It's not a good situation.
You probably need to clock 116 to win a big championship game against the top counties at the moment. Without Colin McShane in the side, I can't see them getting that tally.
Correct.
So we want to talk about this because we've been covering the story of the Mayo County Board in some detail. Owen made his reputation as Ireland's next great investigative journalist when he went and spent the night out risking life and limb.
You pronounced the word destroyed wrong there. Destroyed my reputation.
Outside the county board meeting. The instigator of all of the turmoil was the relationship between Tim O'Leary, this benefactor from England who's been bankrolling essentially Mayo GAA for ages, and rightfully he was looking for the deal that he had struck to be honoured, and he wanted to make sure that there were receipts for all the money that he'd put through. Eventually the row that he had with the county board settled down, and then yesterday he tweeted, I was checking his Twitter account early on, he was talking about the Ireland-England game and how important it is, and the lads he goes with they all have Irish names, but they're all, I think, certainly they seem to be English, as in they seem to be born in England. But I obviously saw the result coming through from the game yesterday in the league match. He saw the result coming through and decided to take to Twitter and give his opinion about what was happening with James Horan. So at 5:34 p.m, this tweet went up, #HoranOut. So his Twitter handle is @NewportMayo1951, obviously, 1951. Mayo, 2 likes. That was deleted pretty quickly from Richmond.
What happened, not sure?
That one got deleted. #HoranOut, 5:34. Then he doubled down at 7:32. #HoranOut, we are not very good. #truth hurts always. And then somebody gets onto him and says, Tim, with the greatest of respect, that comment is way out of order. This isn't the Premier League where results dictate a share price. Mayo supporters support. While nobody's delighted with today's result, we'll still be there in round 7, willing our team to stay in Division 1. I hope to be there, Richie, backing us to win. I am entitled to my opinion, rightly or wrongly, best wishes. That was that. And I don't know, did he answer any more of the questions? They're all deleted now. Yeah. So maybe he doesn't think it should be horn out, or maybe he does think it's horn out. And
the Bahamas. I don't know. Maybe is look. Maybe it was him tweeting. It would have been a couple of his buddies.
Seems like it's him. It's in keeping with his.
Well. My thoughts on this are he's entitled to his opinion as everyone else is, right? So he's entitled to say whether he's a fan or not. But some people would say, well, is he, because if he's writing checks, does that add extra weight? Yes, it does. So he's entitled to his opinion, but he also has a duty, I would imagine, because he's a guy who is sponsoring the whole setup. So his opinion matters a whole lot than just a fella who has never given a bob to it or probably isn't really that involved with it. He adds weight to it. So although his opinion is okay and he can say whatever he likes, doing stuff like that and putting it out there is just antagonistic, really, It's toxic to the environment in Mayo GAA when you have somebody who is bankrolling it saying that the manager needs to go. This is a brilliant manager. This is a manager who has taken that Mayo team to within inches of beating the greatest team of all time. And here we have some guy who's at a rugby match yesterday who hasn't seen the game tweeting that he wants that manager to go. This is ridiculous behaviour. I think it's absolutely shocking behaviour. And Mayo are now realising that there's no such thing as a free lunch. This guy's going to sound off whatever he wants. And we're all going to be following his Twitter account going, what does Tim O'Leary think about this? But that's where I think, the problem comes, right? He can tweet whatever he wants. Absolutely. Right? He can tweet whatever he wants. And if, just because I sign a cheque and hand it over, right, I still have an opinion, so I can do that. It's the problem on the far side who then feel, he has said this, so maybe we need to react. You can take the check and you can say thank you very much, and you can say this is going in here to do whatever development, but your opinion basically matters the same as, Mr. Smith there, who hasn't given us anything. It's basically, in other words, it doesn't really matter. The only opinion that matters is the management team and the committee and da-da-da-da-da. So if they're able to do that, fine. If they're being influenced by something like that, well, then you're in trouble. And it would seem they have been in the past. Yeah. So, yes, it is toxic. But that's where you need a strong committee to be able to say, you don't need to be putting that stuff out there.
they might have to come to an agreement where James Horn isn't allowed any of the fun-sized bananas that he's funding for the inter-county team. It's an interesting one. In fairness, it actually makes you think. We actually do have a fairly good culture of being patient with managers in the GAA. It's very rare that there's
it's the league.
But also there's that. But no matter what time of the year it is, there's very rarely a clamour for somebody to leave mid-season. There has been plenty of things said, for example, about Mickey Hart in the last couple of years, and I think there's always a general acceptance that people see their season out, and then there's a decision made.
Yeah.
Actually, the course of action is actually respected. In
the Dubs games. Obviously did it to Mickey Whelan back in the day, when they were still playing in Parnell Park. But I can't remember of any.
But that was a classic.
Many other.
The chaos days of Dublin sort of move. This would be a classic chaos era of Mayo. They started to do these sort of things. But obviously, I don't even know why I'm entertaining that this is a real possibility.
Well, nobody can take this seriously. Is the thing. You can't take Horn out seriously. It's a ridiculous assertion.
I found it funny when I saw it, to be quite honest. But maybe
it's funny for you as a Kerry fan, right? But if you're a Mayo fan and you're looking at that, going, come on. Again, we have to be talking about.
Well, it's being dragged up, yeah. So, the question has to be asked of him, whether someone is going to ask it or not. Is listen, what are you trying to do here? What exactly is your motivation here? What are you trying to plan? You can't just, as I say again, you can have an opinion whether you write a check or not. But just because you write the check doesn't mean that your opinion has any more greater weighting than anyone else. And therefore, the person who receives the check, as in the county board, has to be able to say, we were just dismissing that kind of stuff. Probably, we shouldn't even be talking about it necessarily, right? But at the same time, it is toxic. It is toxic in a camp that's probably low in confidence. All the stuff that happened earlier on in the year is still around it. Everything is still coming in. There's probably still, I wouldn't say the atmosphere and the environment between county board and management team and everything is all rosy. Maybe it is. Maybe it's perfect. But it's not a great situation to be in. Absolutely.
I want to make one last point on this, but you're right, we shouldn't spend too much longer on it. But I think it's important because Mayo decided that they were going to take this money, and money comes with strings attached. We all know that money comes with strings attached in every walk of life, right? Tim O'Leary has a relationship with some of the players. There are photographs out there of Tim and some of the players. Is he somehow representative? Is there some suggestion? I don't know, right? And I'm not saying that he is representing those players or that he's expressing the view of anybody except himself. But in the minds of other people, there will be a perception that he's close to some players. He's got this opinion. What do the players like? It just begins to bring up all the types of questions that you have when there is what looks like from the outside a county that is not unified. This doesn't happen in Dublin.
There's nothing worse than being undermined as a management team. Right, so Horan is in there, and we know the rumours over the last number of years in Mayo, the last 4, 5, 6 years, the time with Kennelly and etc. So there has been this innuendo going on and everything else about undermining happening. That there's groups of players here who want this guy in, there's groups of players here who want this keeper being played, there's groups of players here who want this style being played. That is all toxic. Then you add in this, and that's just a grenade in on top of it. Because not only is it a grenade that's going, but it's a grenade that has power behind it. It really does. It's not, as I said, some fella on some random social website just posting it up. That is a guy who has put euros and sterling and whatever else into this. And as you say, he's befriending very influential people on the team, being pictured with them, giving them whatever. Right, so it's rotting from the middle, and there's been plenty of people who have spoken about this and written about this. That is a culture in Mayo that just has to go before they won't win anything until that culture goes, especially the culture of blame that's going on. And this undermining is massively not helping.
I want to finish with this now.
You're Galway though, you're licking your lips.
Yeah, exactly, or Roscommon. Finishing with Meath, because there was another GAA man tweeting his displeasure last night. Have a look at this. The more I think and stew over the Meath GAA under 20 result, the more annoyed and frustrated I am about it. By the way, that has nothing to do with the players or management of the team. So there's a holy trilogy in GAA, which is players is one leg of the clover, and then there's the son, which is obviously the management, and then God the Father, which is the county board. We all know this. There's only one thing missing there.
As told by St. Patrick himself.
He was a good Meath man, kind of.
I knew the great man. I wouldn't have been able to get you to read between the lines on this one. Yeah, it's. So this is. I was at this game on Saturday. Meath under 20s played Dublin under 20s, and the result was a very, very convincing win for Dublin. Dublin team were good. You know, that guy Archer was playing, and they have some really, really nice players, but they weren't anything that, you know, kind of really blew me away.
This is a good Meath team as well.
This is a Meath team that's backboned by two teams that have been very, very successful. You know, the two teams that basically one got to won the Leinster, got to an All-Ireland semi-final. You're talking about 7 and 8 of a mix between two very, very successful teams. But teams that have all the way through, under 14, under 16, would have played this Dublin team and beaten this Dublin team. So you come to a point where, and you can talk about development of players from 18 to 20 or whatever you want, but that's a whole different conversation. But you come to a point where they then go into the Lions Den and they get absolutely spanked and sent back up the road, okay? And everyone will go, oh, it's Dublin and da-da-da. Like, it's not good enough. So from my opinion, why it's not good enough is you have a situation where Dublin have been training, I think, since the start of November for this, right? This is a competition in the GAA calendar. It's not just some couple of counties deciding let's rummage together and let's have a few games. This is a competition in the calendar. It's not a blitz. There's a trophy for this. There is, you know, you're going to get if you win it, you get printed. And by the way, when you look down through all of the successful teams over the last 15 or 20 years at senior All-Ireland level, you can back it up with minors and under 20 or under 21 titles as it was. If you're doing it at underage, it generally seeps through. You can see that now in Galway and everything else and all the teams over the last while. So, if you're Meath and you're sitting there and you're thinking, where's our 10-year, 15, 20-year plan? You have to start it at the 14s and 16s and the 18s and the 20s, okay? And it is at certain levels, it is. But when you come to a situation where you have probably, you know, some people were talking about a kind of a bit of a golden generation on this team, right? So you're talking about a really good, strong, by the way, there was nothing physical, like they were as big, if not bigger than the Dubs, right? Well able for it, da-da-da. So you go to a situation, you say, well, where does this rate in all of the different competitions that at Meath are going to be in this year? Where does this rate? Well, I'll tell you where it rated. So Dublin start training in November. I believe Laois started training something similar. I'm not sure about Kildare, but I can definitely find out. But you have a situation where Meath started training pretty much the week before Christmas, okay? The management team were cobbled together, and this is no disrespect to the management team, but the guys that were there didn't get re-elected, and then there was this kind of malaise or a delay due to a couple of things, and not due to one person. It should have been a group of people who were taking this on. It should have been decided back in September, October, at some kind of an EGM or an AGM or whatever it is, who's going to be our senior team, football, who's the juniors, who's the under-20s, who are the minors, who has had these players all the way through. Is there continuity? Do we need to add in an extra specialism? Whatever it is, right? You put sense around this. And instead is, you know, who are we going to get to manage these guys? When these fellas are proven winners. This is a competition that Meath could go after.
At their most teachable stage of their careers.
Correct. Go after this competition, win this competition. And then there's some of them who are involved in the Meath senior team. You know, so Shane Walsh is involved in Meath Seniors, Matthew Costello is involved in Meath Seniors, Jack O'Connor is involved in the Meath Seniors, and they've been training with Meath. Dublin haven't allowed one player train with the senior squad. Not one. They are with the under-20s, and they will train with the under-20s and play with the under-20s until that competition is finished. And then if Dessie Farrell wants them, he can bring them up. Now, people will say, oh, but Dessie Farrell has a massive pick. I would say, you know what? If I'm managing that team, I'm going to say, I'm going to deal with what I have. These guys are 18, 19, 20. They're maybe not going to be able to win games for me. The rest should be able. And I know Andy's under pressure trying to keep Division 1, etc. But the actual decision should be taken out of his hands.
The long-term plan is that we have a plan and we stick to it. And the reason that they put them in the under-20 squad is that they're going to get more coaching hours, more contact time, and they're going to have an opportunity to shine in their own environment, unless they're an absolute superstar.
Unless they're an absolute superstar, and they're like, whoa, yeah, and even then, so these guys go back. They trained last Tuesday night with the seniors, 4 days before their match against Dublin. Right, Shane Walsh got injured at that session. Now, he was massively missed. Like, I know he's only one player, but he's a full forward, he's a pivotal player, he's a strong player. So he gets injured, right? And then you're back in with the squad, whatever, on the Thursday. So you're going in again and you're meeting guys who used to be pals of yours, you played with them all the way up. But how is the management team meant to you know, influence that? How are they meant to influence any type of game plan? How are they meant to influence any type of kickouts? Like, Dublin's kickouts were just so down. You know, they emptied out the left side, they just popped the ball out. They had everything. They had they were so far ahead.
Training and a plan helps.
Training a plan, rather than we've a bunch of really good, talented fellas and we'll just see what happens. You can't. You might get away with it against some teams like they did against Wexford, but you come up against Dublin, it doesn't work. So my point isn't right. My point is, where is the thinking on this? Where is the, as I say, the planning on this? Where is actually, hold on a second, we have a really good shot at this, so let's put the importance behind it. And by the way, if you're a player, if we were in that, we would feel it. You would feel it. You'd go, when was the management team picked? They see it on social media. Oh, it's picked a week before December. No one really cares about this. I'm going to play with my college. I'm going to do a bit with the club.
I'll try and make
the
senior team.
Yeah. I'll make the senior team.
Yeah. Look, whenever the conversation is had about Dublin versus the rest of Leinster and the rest of Leinster isn't getting enough money, it's stuff like this that makes me think that, and Kildare, like, staring down the barrel of relegation and not even being able to compete in Sam Maguire this year from Division 2 unless they beat Meath in the, maybe they don't even make the semi-finals of Leinster this year. Like, that's the bit where their houses are not in order. Meath haven't got their house in order, Kildare haven't got their house in order, and sure, the funding is an issue, but when everybody has their house in order and there's still a gap, then you go, the gap is the funding. But until everybody actually does what they're supposed to do and puts a plan in place and has people in charge who actually have a vision and the ability to rally people behind that vision and explain what that vision is, then I don't know. They're not in the same. You're not in the same ballpark.
No, and like people will throw and say to me now, oh, you know, there's loads of good stuff, and there is loads of good stuff. Absolutely, no one is saying there isn't. But when you have one of, which it is, one of the premium competitions in the calendar season.
Oh yeah.
As I said, it's not like a blitz. It's not like an under-16 blitz in Cavan. You know, on a wet Tuesday evening in the summer. This is a prime competition. Like, you would think that there's going to be a bit of forward thinking and planning. Who have we got? Oh, we've actually got 2 teams that have won. These guys are good.
And it's in the calendar every year, so it's not like it was breaking news to them either. Anthony, good stuff. Thanks a million for joining us.